Today, it's my pleasure to present the Dr. Araceli Venegas Gomez, who spent several years working for Airbus in Germany and France as an aerospace engineer before falling in love with quantum mechanics. She then decided to follow her passion for physics and moved to Scotland to pursue a PhD degree in quantum simulation at the University of Strongsford. Following discussion with the different quantum stakeholders, she had over the last years Araceli identified the need to bridge the gap between business and academia, as well as to raise the quantum awareness to the general public. Continuing her work on outreach advocating quantum technologies, she was named the Quantum Ambassador after winning the Optical Society Milton and Rosalind Chance Pivotal Fellowship in 2019. Araceli founded her own company called QURECA, Quantum Resources and Careers, to create a link between the different stakeholders in the quantum community through a common language and to generate global opportunities with quantum technologies. QURECA provides a range of professional service, business development, and the solution to the quantum workforce skills bottleneck. The free online platform to quantum training to support individuals and businesses to be part of the quantum revolution. Her title of Dr. Araceli Venegas Gomez is Career in Quantum, Build Your Path. Thank you, Araceli, to be with us. Thank you for accepting our invitation. You can go ahead with your presentation.
Hola, Braulio. Thanks for inviting me here today. I understood that it's gonna be recorded, so I hope that if anyone has any question, even afterwards, can reach out to me. Can you see the presentation mode now?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see you,
we
Dr.
can see
Araceli.
the screen.
Thank you. Well, I think it has been the second or the third time that we try to have this kind of events and this kind of collaboration. So again, thanks, Braulio, for reaching out to me. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my career and how I see careers in quantum at the moment. Between last week and this week, I have been in different events talking again about how things have changed. And it's really changing, and it's going to be continuously changing in the coming years. So whoever wants to do a career in quantum, don't worry. Things are going to be shaping in the coming years. So you will have a chance to build your career in quantum, that's for sure. So this is what I said. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about my career, and the only thing that I want after my talk and when people watch it is that you think about yourself, that you think about what you want to do. Again, this is just the beginning of a new field. Think really about what you enjoy doing and see how you can make that path to the dream job, right? I'm going to tell you about my career that, as you see, it didn't start with quantum physics. I studied aerospace engineering in Madrid. I'm from Spain. Well, I studied aerospace engineering basically because someone told me that in a piece of newspaper, in paper, it was written that was the most difficult career in Europe. And I started to get really inclined to discover more about this degree. I searched online. The information at that time was not what you can find now. So when I look at the subjects and everything, it was really interesting. I was thinking, maybe I can learn about space, you dream, maybe I can become an astronaut and things like that. But the truth is that I didn't have these kind of sessions before I went into university. I didn't know any engineer in my life, and I didn't have that kind of information or role models to kind of shape that's really what I want to do. But I ended up doing this and I enjoy it. And when I think about my career, I was thinking, okay, I finished my degree. I found a job as an aerospace engineer. That's it. That was my vision of a career at that point. And when I think about it, it's quite boring. The truth is that someone very clever, when I was doing an internship in Madrid at Airbus, told me that I could try to do my final degree project abroad. And I was like, sounds really good. And that opened up a lot of different opportunities because I went to Belgium for my Erasmus. I went to Austria to do experimental physics. It was an internship. That was the beginning of physics could be an option. I ended up going to the US to study English, to the UK. I was also teacher for students, this kind of a support teacher in the evenings and things like that. But the truth is, all these just opened my mind and realized that I wanted to continue being abroad. I wanted to continue shaping that journey. And as an aerospace engineer, what can you do? Well, you work for an aerospace company. And in Europe, that is Airbus. And I was lucky enough that I could move to Germany. I wanted to move to Germany because when I was in Austria and I tried to learn German, I realized how difficult that is. And I said, I'm going to go to Germany and learn this language at the same time that I have a permanent job. So I went to Germany and I moved to work with this helicopter that is huge. It's a military helicopter. And I started as an engineer. But I guess by chance or how the things turn out, I went into more project management. I did projects with universities, I was always kind of in the middle of doing different things. I was telling people what to do because I was talking to another department. So I was kind of in that link space between translation of or between departments or between companies, etc. But I wanted to understand how a big company works. And then I moved to another role that is this strategic resource management. What we did then was to look at the future and think as a company, what do we want to develop? What is going to be the innovation? And what do we need for that? What are the skills that we need for that? And what are the resources in general that we need for that? As you will see, that has a lot to do with what I'm doing now. The truth is that during my free time of my full-time job, when I was in Germany and traveling a lot to France, I wanted to study physics. And I did one master's of medical physics. And in the free time of that, with my full-time job, I started to learn quantum physics. And it was because when I encounter magnetic resonance imaging, the basis of that, I understood that most of you study physics or engineering. You probably know that magnetic resonance imaging, actually the basis is on quantum mechanics. And I wanted to learn about that. And then I went to the only physicist that I knew at that time. We're talking about 2013. And I asked him, can you tell me more about this Hilbert space thing? Because I have encountered this and I don't understand. I don't know how to start studying this. And he told me, that is very hard. Why do you want to learn that? Like, don't tell me it's hard because now I want to learn it even more. And I decided at that point that I wanted to change my career, that I wanted to go into quantum mechanics, that I wanted to learn more about that. And I always could come back to aerospace or to a big company and to do management and have that career. But if I wanted to learn quantum, I decided that was kind of the inflection point in my career. That's the big question that most of people cannot answer. And I couldn't answer until I was like 30 years old. That is, what do I want to do with my life? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Do I want to try anything else? And when I asked myself that question at that time, the answer was quantum. And I started to apply everywhere for a PhD in quantum, and people rejected me everywhere. Well, because I was an engineer, so I didn't know any mathematics, any physics, or even comments like, why women are now interested in physics is because of Big Bang Theory and things like that. But I didn't care. I wanted to learn that. The truth is that the opportunity didn't come until 2015 when a professor that I have been speaking by email for a year, that it was a contact done by another professor in the US thanks to an online course, gave me the chance to visit him. And he kind of tested me for a week and he said, okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity to change your career. And that's how I moved to Glasgow in Scotland at the University of Strathclyde. He didn't offer me a PhD at the beginning. He offered me 1 year Master of Research, and then I did the PhD. And I'm saying this because I know that a lot of people sometimes say, I would like to do a PhD. If you do 1 more year of a master's, or if you go to the US, that's kind of in the package, right? You do 1 year master's and then the PhD. It's okay. 1 more year is not going to change anything. Okay. The truth is that for me, going back to study after years in industry, obviously not being a physicist, was a little bit hard because I wanted to demonstrate that I could do everything, that I could be like the others. And I was getting involved in all the things that you could imagine. I was getting involved in doing a lot of outreach, going to museums and things like that. I was presenting at any chance that I could what I was doing, posters and talks. And I also started to be part of the student chapters and student associations and things like that. So if you have that opportunity, please do it because that can change your life as it actually did with me. So I hope that for that, it gives you already an idea that a career plan is not going to be a straight line, that there are a lot of changes that can happen. And obviously, you might have a dream in the long-term future, but it doesn't make sense. See, if I ask you now, what do you want to do in 10 years or 20 years? That might change. The question that you need to ask yourself is, what do you want to do in 1 year time? And what do you need to do to achieve that? Like kind of small milestones in your career before the end goal in the long term. And when I think of how I started my next step, when I was getting involved in all these things, it was in 2015, it was the launch of the Quantum National Program in the UK. It was the first country launching this national initiative strategy in quantum technologies. I realized that in order to do all these, everyone in an ecosystem should understand why this is important. You have the government needs to put the money that goes into the research that creates new industry. And at the end of the day, the money that goes to government is coming from the general public. When you say to anyone that you work in quantum, there is kind of a strange reaction. They would say, "Oh, you're so clever." Or they could say, "Oh, that's so difficult." Or they might say, "Oh, that's really cool." And then they start talking about black holes or anything scientific. The thing is that there is a connotation when you say quantum that is weird, is difficult. But I think we can just tell people we are using quantum technologies every day. It's not something new. And then you can explain lasers and transistors and the magnetic resonance imaging and cameras, etc. And you can tell them this is all quantum technology. You're not thinking about the technology that is behind each of the things around you. But that kind of gives that sense of being familiar with something because it's what we use every single day. So obviously, when we discuss now about quantum technologies as something new, it's because something has changed. And what it has changed is that instead of having a lot of particles, like for example in the laser that you have a lot of photons, we as a society, researchers in the lab have been able to control quantum matter at the single level. You have one atom, one photon, and you control quantum phenomena of that single level. And that gives obviously, I know that you have been hearing about all this a lot this week, so and last week. The concept of the qubit, right, is the fact that you have one single quantum entity that you can control. And that is what is making a new revolution. But still, how to explain that to everyone in this ecosystem? How to translate the concept that is very technical, very academic, to someone in industry that they need to buy this instrument? How to convince the government that this is very important? For that, it's necessary to bridge the language gap or translate, being able to translate depending on who are you talking to, which is not easy because you might know that scientists and very technical people in general tend to be very technical when they talk. And if someone in front of them is not very technical, then there is a huge gap on understanding. Here, if we want really to build a new quantum ecosystem, we need to try to speak the same language. That's how I kind of say, oh, there is something that we could do here, but I didn't know how to bridge that gap. But again, thanks to those connections that I was telling you before, being part of the student associations and so on, someone told me, sorry, okay, I thought I was going to say, someone told me, why don't you apply for a fellowship that is from the Optical Society at that time? And that's how in 2019, they called me the Quantum Ambassador. it's not just the opportunity to have that. There was some money, and obviously it was big because Optica made a lot of advertisement of this. It was giving me the chance to have an official title that I could use to talk to people. And that's how literally I went around the world talking to different stakeholders to understand the quantum ecosystem. And luckily, just before the lockdown and the pandemic. And that's how I created the company in 2019 with the aim to bridge that gap. So since 2019, my career became the founder and the CEO of QURECA, already more than 6 years, which is crazy. What we do at QURECA, we have these three pillars. Obviously, it's about education, about training, about awareness, about bridging that gaps that everyone understands the potential of quantum technologies. Obviously, there is a little bit of consulting there because if governments or companies understands the basics and they want to do more, they might require a market strategy or they want to do a specific project or things like that. And it has been a lot of community building. During the pandemic, we organized a lot of different events. We organized Quantum Latino for several years where we wanted to bring quantum to Latin America. And also that people within the different countries could talk to each other. It's a lot about what is missing, where are the gaps, and what could we do about it. One thing was as well quantum for finance in the financial sector, or quantum cybersecurity and space. A lot of different kind of small ecosystems within the whole community. And what we are trying to do since then has been always the same, but obviously during these 6 years, we have been developing a lot of different resources and products. We have been coordinating different projects like QT Indu, where we have a lot of different courses for free. And some courses might remain free, but some others are not going to be free anymore since January, from January 2026. So please, if you're interested, just go to QT Indu website, qtindu.eu, and you will see all the different courses. We have been working in the US with the QSTING initiative that it was quantum to bring quantum technologies to different colleges around the country. We have the Adequate project. Is a course on quantum computing. It's about 50 hours, and it goes from the very basics to really neural networks and quantum machine learning. It's free again until December. So please have a look at that. If you don't find it, just drop me an email. We have done a lot of different things over these years. So we have our own catalog where you find online courses. We deliver courses in person. We have tailored learning paths. We have hands-on training. You see here the image where people build their own block sphere. We have been writing different papers about the ecosystem. And here you see that we work really globally at different levels with different people, it has been amazing. So if you don't know us yet, just please come to the website, QURECA.com, and then you will find a lot of, again, resources for free and the catalog. You will click here, where you will find not only our products, but also another fantastic products and resources on quantum education that people around the world has been developing. You will have games like this Hop Quantum game. It's a board game, and it has been really bestseller. And then we have bigger devices like experimental setups and things like that. If you're from a university where you don't have anything like that, maybe you can talk to your professor, because there are a lot of resources out there if you want to learn quantum computing, sensing, or communications and security. And that wrapping up, now I'm going to talk more about quantum again in general and not about QURECA, is that we are in a new revolution. In a new revolution that brings us to new technology. And I have no idea why you don't see the image, because I see it here. Okay, it comes. You don't know there was an animation that we changed these pillars recently because we believe that quantum computing and simulation should go under the same pillar. Obviously, we are talking a lot about digital quantum computers, but a lot of people are doing quantum simulation, simulators, emulators, etc. And at the end of the day, depending on the use case, is going to be one or the other, or a blend of both. So that is the first pillar. The second one, obviously, is the security one, where we have all about quantum communication and networks. That means QKD and PQC. And that's very, very important because, again, the last weeks everyone was talking it should be one or the other, and it should be both. At the end of the day, we are going to have this kind of new infrastructure for quantum communication in the future. And the third one is the sensing, imaging, navigation, etc. I don't know if you heard, but nowadays is kind of very, very important because a lot of defense ministers of defense around the world are putting their eyes on this. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I would say it's a very interesting path for your studies or to work in industry. You might have seen this map. We have been doing this since 2020, and everyone has been using our map where we put the global effort coming from governments on quantum technologies. This is about national initiatives. It's not about regional initiatives. It's not about pure research. It's really the government setting up a program for quantum technologies. And I have heard that there will be some others coming up very soon. On the west and on the east. So that's very, very interesting. I think this is just growing and growing. Of course, there are some regions still a little bit too gray, but that doesn't mean that there are not things going on there because it has been really a global effort. And if we look at the quantum companies distribution, they are everywhere, literally in a lot of countries where you couldn't imagine that there is a quantum company. People have been thinking about those services, those products, those applications. And this is a very interesting slide because you will see the distribution per country, where you see, obviously, in the US, there are a lot of companies, but there are a lot of companies in the US, basically, because there's a lot of private investment as well. A lot of companies, they move to the US because of that. But a lot of companies as well, they have offices in several countries. I can give you an example. I was just in Denmark, and in Denmark, there are a lot of companies that they are not Danish companies, but they have now a subsidiary or an office there. So there is really the global possibility right now to work in quantum industry. And the important thing, again, is to think about where you want to work, because virtual and remote work is more difficult right now. People want to have that blended remote and in person, and also basically being in the lab if you need to be there. So think about where you want to be and in which sector would you like to work. Because if we think about the different sectors, obviously there are a lot of companies working on quantum computing. It could be the end-to-end stack, it could be the hardware, it could be the software, but in general, like 50% of companies right now are working on quantum computing. But there are a lot of companies working on other things, laser companies, consulting, communication, security, investors. There are a lot of different career paths depending on what is interesting for you. Even within these companies, there are different positions that could be more or less technical, depending again on your skills. And I wanted to show you this as well. That is the distribution in Europe for those who are looking for a job in Europe. But all in all, if we look at the whole global market is very rich. This is a little bit outdated slide, but I wanted to show you because this is just on quantum computing and this is updating every single week. There are more companies appearing. There are companies that are now bought by others. There is really very rich environment. First, maybe trying to identify those companies, because I have heard from a lot of students that they are doing their studies, and when I said, yeah, like, I don't know, to give you an example, Rigetti, and they never heard of Rigetti, and I was really astonished by that. I think that if you really want a career in quantum industry, at least you should have heard most of the big names here. And that's the big question. Do we have enough people to work in this field? This has been a very big topic in the last years. Every single conference, they talk about talent, about education, the workforce gap. So really, it's clear that we don't have enough people right now. And when we look at AI, there is already an identified gap of the people needed according to the demand until 2030. If we don't start acting now in quantum, this is going to be even bigger. Because obviously, we know that quantum is going to come. And this is just going to be more and more companies, more and more development. They will need more people. Where are we going to find those people if we don't start training people now? If people like you are not starting to think about their careers. And you see, this is going to be exponential. But that, when I started this 5 years ago, it looked like we still have time. But now we're talking what? 5 years? In 5 years, maybe if you're doing your undergraduate, you are gonna be exactly at the time where they will be hiring like crazy. But the message is that we will need to train the workforce of the present and the workforce of the future. And for that, we really need to think ahead. What are the options for career paths for people that want to go in the quantum industry now? If you have a bachelor's, in general, it's rare that people will hire you. It's different depending on the region, but most of the quantum companies are still looking for a PhD because they are still developing their products and they want people that they are really experts on whatever they need. But it's becoming more and more common that just with a master's is enough. But maybe not for a person that is going to be in the lab developing the quantum computer, but maybe for a person that needs to be the face of the company going at events or something like that. So again, it goes back to what is the kind of role that you would like to do in industry and what would be your ideal career path for that. And another thing that I have seen more and more is researchers and academics, like senior academics, moving into industry. For one reason or another, they just feel that they want to change their careers. Again, it goes back to what are the companies doing? And it's true that now it's not clear how this classification can be done because there are companies that have pivoted in the last years or companies that are doing a little bit of everything. And I'm going to give you an example of a company that I just talked to last week. They started kind of doing photonic sources, and now they said that they do the full stack photonic quantum computers, but they still do specific kind of devices that people can be used for quantum sensing or quantum communication. So obviously, the core of the technology of that company is photonics, quantum photonics. So if you're interested in that, then it will be if there is a match between your skills and what they are looking at. But what I want to say is that it's not just you work in quantum, you're going to be in a quantum computing company. There are really a lot of different options, and in any of these quantum events, you will see that there are really a lot of companies out there and a lot of possibilities. If we look at the skills that people are looking at, there are a lot of skills that is not traditional physics skills. There are more and more people with material design background, material engineering. It could be people with coding skills. I remember a job offer where they say, I just need someone with at least 4 years of Python. I don't care about the rest. Or electronics engineers. The question is, do electronics and electrics engineers understand that they can have a career path in quantum technologies? Do they know that this is a possibility? Are they interested in that? And I would believe that that is not the case. But there are a lot of transferable skills. If you are doing physics or engineering and you like electronics, that could be a career path because it's really needed. The same for any computer science background, and as I said, optics and photonics. All in all, what we are looking at is a new field that is quantum engineering. Some people believe that this will become a field by itself, so you will have your degree of quantum engineering in the future, and some other people will believe that is part of other degrees, that you do electronics engineering and you will have some quantum subject. We don't know the answer to that. Maybe it will depend on the region. But again, it's important that you think about the skills that you have now and the skills that you will love to acquire for your career. And also other skills, soft skills. What else besides your academic background is important in your CV? Have you done any internship? Can you show that you have communication skills? I remember someone that it was a coach, like football, soccer coach for years, and I'm like, that gives already a lot of leadership skills. A lot of things that you have done might show these kind of extra skills that is going to differentiate your CV from others. And obviously, anyone that has been involved in the organization of this event can show that you have already a lot of different other skills that you have acquired through this. So it's again, what else can you do? What other experience and expertise can gain depending on what you have done or you can do in the coming years. And at the end of the day, all that you see here are gonna be the things that are gonna be important, even if you don't believe me now. But it's you will need to work with others. It's the same if you are in a lab at the university during your PhD or your postdoc or your academic career. You will need to be able to manage your stress. You will need to negotiate with others, with your boss, with your colleague. If you sell a product, and the self-promotion, what do you want to achieve? So all these things are going to be inherent part of your career life, and that's very important that you start already thinking about it. And obviously, again, it's not just about technical positions. There are more and more project management, product management, sales, customer relationships, even marketing roles where they ask for someone with a technical background. If you are interested in any of these, this is really, in my opinion, something that a lot of people, maybe with a master's, could, if they are interested in these career options, they could be hired right away. But again, it will depend on what you want to do. But if you are interested in any of these, just again, let me know. Remember that it's not about where to start, because your starting point is whatever you are at this point. It's more about where you want to go. And that goes now to your career path and what you want to do. I don't know what you all are doing, if you are doing bachelor's, master's, PhDs, or if you finish your degree, but I'm pretty sure that you have thought about your future at one point. Because obviously, all this will end. There will be life after your degree. And the question is, what do you want to do? What is your dream job? And here you have something that is actually very, very real. That is these people that they just go on. I remember people, they said, no, I did my master's and then I did my PhD and then I realized I don't like this. It was just kind of, yes, I just continue. And then it's like, no, I don't want to continue doing this. So do you have a secret plan? Do you want to open a shop? Or do you want to know more about those potential career options? But it's true, if you're doing a PhD, that you have a lot of motivation for your research at the beginning, and then during kind of mid-time of your PhD, it's really hard because it's like you don't see the end, you continue doing similar things, and you become less interested in your own research. Then there is also not so much advice sometimes. This is from 2012, things have changed, obviously. But sometimes students are not even interested because they say, I need to do my research. Believe me, stopping for one day to do what you're doing now or going to talk to someone is not going to change anything. It's going to just help your career. And well, you need a backup plan because if your goal is to, I don't know, to buy a Ferrari, maybe that will come, but at one point before, what is your backup plan for that, right? Just my 2 cents between the life in academia and the life in industry. In academia, you have a lot of freedom. When you're doing your PhD, obviously you need to do what your supervisor tells you and everything, but you have a lot of freedom because at the end of the day, if you don't finish your PhD, it's only about you. Nobody else cares. That's really the truth because it's your own research. It's you that you want to finish your PhD. If you don't finish, someone else will continue that research, right? And the value of your research, unless that you are doing something that is very applied, is going to come in the long term. We just need to look at the Nobel Prizes. They have the price of something that they did 30, 40 years ago. Sometimes, if it's really fundamental, obviously there is not even a direct impact of what you do. And depending on where you are, your research career just become, I need to get funding. I need to look for more funding that I can have more PhD students that I can continue doing my research. I'm not saying that bad. I'm just saying how it is. If you love that, fine by me. Now, in industry, the value, it has to be for the company. You don't have the freedom, such a freedom to say, I would like to do this, to try new things, because you need to do what the company wants you to do. You have deadlines. And it doesn't mean, this paper can be a little bit better. I'm going to submit it next month. No, you need to finish your job now because the client wants whatever you, or the investors or whoever, because it's a product. Normally, you have immediate impact. Obviously, it's not the same if you're working in a startup that they are doing basically research that is the same that you will do in the lab. But also, people say in industry you will have better salaries. These will differ. It will really depends on where you work. In some regions, you might have better salaries in academia than in industry. So it really depends. But overall, it's true that for most of jobs, obviously, if it's your own company, this doesn't apply. But if you work for someone else, if you live in academia, you will say, "Oh, I'm living," and then you go home and you will be writing that paper. You will be checking your experiments. You will continue doing something. Whereas if you work for someone else in a company, you might just stop and say, "Okay, see you tomorrow." Again, it really depends how much you love what you do. If you are a founder, this also applies, believe me. Here, if you, I hope you can scan this because I really like this article. It's giving you a lot of ideas about careers if you have a physics degree in general, not only in quantum, but in general, or physicists. Good. Now, you're set up in your career path. You want to get a job. Where to start? The truth is, being a physicist or an engineer, you fit everywhere. You could work in legal. Actually, I was just talking to someone that she became a patent attorney after being a physicist, after even having a PhD. Because did you know that all patent attorneys need to have a technical background? Obviously, you can work in science, but you can work in any engineering company. You can also work in something more like social, like human resources, talent management, where they are looking at someone that has to build the relationships but understands the technology. Obviously, project management, finance and accounting, if you like that. But there are a lot of different options with a technical background. And in quantum in general, one question that a lot of people are asking is, do I need a PhD? And again, it really depends where you are looking at. In Europe, it's true that normally more and more jobs require the PhD. In the US, sometimes a bachelor's or a master's is enough, but it will depend on a lot of things. But that was the research that we did at that time. And just yesterday, I heard from another research done this year and last year, and it was the same. So we are still in this trend. Overall, I'm sure that you want to learn more about quantum. Just don't forget that there are a lot of resources out there. I saw that QURECA has been part of this, obviously, and Qiskit, IBM's. There are a lot of resources. Here you have the link to the paper where you have this. This is a little bit outdated now, but if you want to learn quantum, you have quantum games, board games, or online games. There are so many events online, in person. So I think it's easier to be part of that community nowadays. Now, the steps to choose your career, again, starts with assessing yourself. Who am I? What is my profile? What do I like to do? What are the different jobs that I would like to explore? And you can just make a list. You can dream, it's okay. What are the different things that you think that could be interesting for you? And then you can apply for jobs and start doing interviews, even if it's not your dream job, because it will be really hard if your first interview will be for your dream job. But you can do informal interviews. You can also talk to someone at your university or with the colleagues or anything. Try to do that informal interviews. And I'm pretty sure that once you start learning a little bit more about the job market, you will find a career choice. I would like to do that. You need to make your own research, but you need to identify those goals. Write your career plan. I would like to look for, I want to do a master's first, or I want to do a software engineering role in any company where I can develop my Python skills while I continue learning quantum computing and then wait for the market to be a little bit more mature. Or no, I want to finish my PhD and I want to work in quantum industry. The CV is going to be everything. And obviously now with AI, you need to be super, super careful. Your CV is not going to be the same if you are looking for an academic job or a PhD, or if you look for a job in industry. Your academic curriculum is going to be 100 million pages. It's gonna contain everything that you did, any poster presentation, any little scientific paper, conference paper, everything has to be there. Your industry CV is going to be 1 or 2 pages where you really can summarize what you have done. You need to be specific on who you are and what you're looking at. And obviously you tailor depending on the company that you're sending the CV to. Photo or not photo, I think it doesn't matter. Some people might say it's better with or without. I think it doesn't matter. Please send your CV in a PDF. It looks really bad when you submit as a Word document. You use an email address with your name, even if you need to create it when you look for a job. But don't put, I don't know, like sunshine22 at gmail.com. That looks bad. And you don't need to put any personal details. You don't need to say whether you are married or not. You don't need to say where you were born. Okay. But obviously, people are going to ask you for your nationality because in some countries that might be tricky. Check 100 million times to what you have put in your CV. Everything starts in your CV with a powerful statement at the top that summarizes who you are, what you're looking for. It will be 2 or 3 sentences, but that's the part that is going to be tailored to the company that you're applying to. And obviously the same when you put your achievements and everything is going to be tailored. But one very, very important thing is you will need your LinkedIn profile. No one, unless that is pure academic, and still now more and more academics are going to LinkedIn, will get a job without a LinkedIn profile. And in your LinkedIn profile, don't lie. Don't ask your colleagues to endorse you because obviously that doesn't look good. Just put what you put in your CV, just put it on LinkedIn. And again, that powerful statement at the top is everything. So put if you are part of any association, if you have an SPIE account or anything like that, IEEE, Optica, you put it there because that shows that you are engaged with the community. 3 examples of CVs that look pretty good. Again, 2 with pictures, 1 without picture. People want to see who you are. And one important thing is sometimes you call yourself what you want to be, right? Like this one on the left is a marketing manager, because probably she's applying for a marketing manager position. If you are not sure how to call you, but you want to work in quantum engineer works perfectly because there is no consensus of what that actually means. But if you want to be software, quantum computing software algorithm designer, you put it there because that really kind of gives already the idea of what you want to go. Overall, there are 2 important statements that I want to give you today. One is that you need to balance your work and your life. Your private life and your work have to be at the same level. You cannot just say, I'm working in the lab 100 hours and then I don't have time to breathe. That's not good. Okay? And I have seen it a lot. And again, summarizing what I said before, find what you love to do, that you can be paid for it, that you are good at it. And at the end, I'm pretty sure that you will find your purpose in your career. So I just wish you good luck with that. The success is going to be ahead, but it's not going to be a straight line. So all the very best. Don't hesitate to send me an email if you or LinkedIn if you have any questions. I'm busy, but I try to answer specific questions anytime. And if you're looking for a job, you can send us your CV because we are looking for some roles for some companies. Okay. Thank you very much.
So it looks like we have some questions for the public. Okay, we go for the first one. It's from Carmen. Okay, she asking what personal values or motivation drive your mission today in QURECA?
Yes. Hi, Carmen. I'm reading what you wrote here. So the personal values is it has been, I think, unchanged since the beginning. It's about how can I ensure that people are ready for what is coming? How can I ensure that when companies are building this new ecosystem that we have an industry, the end users are ready for that the governments are ready for that. Um, we have tried so many things. We have been, as I said, we have been organizing events. We have been involved in World Economic Forum, OECD, any kind of big organization. We just have meetings with the NATO last week. So trying to give that kind of voice that is no hat, right? Like being global and say, hey, don't forget the global south when we do these. Don't forget that we need to ensure that this virtual so that people can access and things like that. That's what we do. We're kind of in the middle of everything and trying to connect the dots that people need sometimes to understand a little bit better the ecosystem.
Another question for her is how do you see QURECA's role in supporting global workforce development, especially in emerging regions like Latin America?
Yes, during the pandemic, actually, it was a really good time because a lot of companies were hiring from everywhere. I remember a lot of people from Latin America, they could get a job in quantum industry, not need it was not needed for them to move. Now it's harder, but well, there are still options, and I'm pretty sure that there are options even within the countries. Maybe not directly a company, but there are positions in research labs and things like that where they can be continuing their careers in quantum. Again, it really depends where. I've been in Brazil recently, and I couldn't imagine how rich is the ecosystem there. There are a lot of different options, and hopefully we do Quantum Latino next year in Brazil. But the idea is that more and more people from all over the world have more opportunities. Another question that we had this week was, do we need to replicate the same thing in all countries? Like, for example, in Europe, if you have a big center in Germany, do you need to do something like that in Slovenia, for example? Probably doesn't make sense. But any region, they want their talent to be in their country because they want to develop that ecosystem. But you need to facilitate that there is an ecosystem there. So there has to be a balance of people that are ready to be part of the ecosystem and also the government giving those facilitating that. And in some regions, I'm giving you the option, the example of Galicia in Spain that I didn't know, and I was learning a lot yesterday about how they have really built an ecosystem, almost out of not much known in the last year. So, yeah, I think it's possible.
Nice. We had another question. Your history is so inspiring for aerospace engineering at Airbus to lead in QURECA and in quantum world. What moment made you realize you want to completely change your career path?
um, Again, it was kind of progressive because I was doing the medical physics master. Then I was with magnetic resonance imaging on this course at Coursera. You know, probably Coursera. Now we are kind of mini Coursera for quantum at QURECA. And I remember being on holidays with my parents. We were visiting a museum, and I'm like, I'm gonna tell my parents. It's like I want to change my career. And I was really, because there was this, the crisis in Europe, and it's like, I want to change my career, and there are a lot of people without jobs and everything. I'm like, I'm determined. I know that I want to do that because in my, in, in my case, I had the option that I could always come back. But from so many amazing people that I've met over the years that they have changed their careers, I don't think anyone has really regretted that option. But everything also helped me. Now that I looking at Braulio, I went to Mexico, and in the way back from Mexico, I bought a book at the airport that is it's in Spanish, but it's something like, look what you do what you want and the money will follow. That was everything because I read that book and it was a long flight, and that I was reading stories of people that, I don't know, maybe successful lawyers that they wanted them to open a farm or things like that. It's like, change, you can change your career, you just need to be happy. And I was reading that book and it's like, yes, quantum is my. So yeah, I think that was the moment. I gave you a lot of info.
Nice answer. We had another question for Danielle. So many students struggle with uncertainty about their future. What advice will be given to someone who feels they are starting too late or coming from a different background?
Yeah, and then again, you will hear a lot of unwelcome comments. I hear a lot of things. One physicist, an academic, told me, "You know that we are using books with formulas. Do you know that?" And I was like, "Is he really telling me this?" So you will hear a lot of things that you know you don't want to hear, but you just need to be determined. Obviously, there is no late too late for starting something. I just met, I don't know when it was this summer or something, someone that he started a PhD. I think she's 68. She's starting now changing her career, and I was like, that is so amazing. So it's never too late, I can tell you. But yeah, you just need to make sure that you wanna do that change. And again, you can always come back. I think that's something that you have to have in mind.
We had another question for Edwin. I recently completed a training with QURECA, and I want to know how's the best to get in touch with them after the program. Do they offer any guidance or opportunities to help participants continue their journey in quantum computing, for example, through research, collaboration, internship, or community projects?
Yeah, I've seen your question. It depends at the beginning because it's not easy. Companies are not so transparent saying, "Oh, we offer internships." Ideally, we wanted to do that. It's like we help you all the way from doing a training. We can say now you can get into that, but it's really hard because that ecosystem of the job market is not yet ready. So it's not like we have someone that doing this course we know that can be placed into a position. That's not the case now, but hopefully it will be in some years. So right now, what I will tell you is if you have something specific, you can just drop me an email. And there are a lot of places where you can look. I can send you a link of it's a newsletter from, I think, a research lab in the US, and they have like a lot of job offers and internships there. And I think that's probably the best list right now, where if you're looking for something. And then obviously there are a lot of hackathons. I know that you have one coming up. There are a lot of things that you can do. But yeah, it's just starting point. So I really hope that you enjoy the course. That was again the first step in your journey.
We had another question. This is for Sophia. If you could go back in time to talk about you with yourself and Argus, what advice would you give her about talking about careers instead?
I love your questions, huh? I don't know. I remember once you probably realized, but I'm kind of quite transparent. And the boss of my boss, I was telling him one day, I hated him because there's no sun in. I was in Germany. I want to do something else, and then he said, "Come with me." Like really, it was a top position, and he sat with me in the office and took the whiteboard and said, "What Araceli wants." That he did that. He said, "You want the sun," and then he's like, "Make a list of what you are looking at." At that point, when I was having this kind of crisis of what I want to do, because that's why I changed positions in the company, there is only one advice that I would have given myself, and I would like to give you now is everything is gonna be okay. I think that's the best one. It doesn't matter. Obviously, there are gonna be bumps on the way. It's gonna be comments that you don't want to hear, but everything's gonna be okay.
We had another question. This is for Tabitha. What everyday activities can STEM students and researchers to do develop the soft skills?
I'm pretty sure that you have a lot of things that you could do at your university. One is obviously present your research because you develop your communication skills, post a presentation, talks, even if it's how do you call it, the journal club, right, at the uni when you talk about a paper, just being able to translate to talk to an audience. Then you can do outreach, anything that you can do to talk to the general public. That's really, really good. Then you can get involved in these student societies where you can have an active role. I started as an outreach officer, I think it was called, and then I was the president of the chapter. Those things are really good because it gives you visibility. You learn skills, but also it gives you a lot of visibility in all these societies that help so much, really, so much. Almost everyone that I have met over the years in these student chapters, now they have become what they wanted to be. And some of them, I can tell you, they became out of very small labs in the middle of places that they were not rich at all, that they struggled even to speak English, and now they are a name. I remember that. So you have the chance to do that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, drop me an email. And well, just do. There are so many online courses that you can do. If you like business, do an online course about project management, business development, AI for business, whatever you can put in your CV that it gives something else. I think that's give you everything. You have the door open.
Thank you so much, Araceli, for an amazing talk. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise and taking your time to answer all the questions for the public. We are grateful that you joined us for today, and I hope to see you in the future events.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Braulio, again, and good luck for the end of the event. Good luck with the hackathon. Bye.
Bye.